to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was running late. The I didn't have a Zoom link. So.
I was running late too. We're fine. We were two people that bumped into each other in the elevator running, so we're good. So let's get into it. Days of Gypsy Nights. Before we do, 5 years ago, this pandemic just melted schedules away. It was a big transition point for musicians. How much of living through that has affected either this recording or what you're doing today?
I have to say that all the terrible things that happened both to us collectively in 2020 and myself, I was going through a divorce, um, were kind of the backdrop to the album.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they say through adversity sometimes we find strength, right? We're challenged to, and I found myself saying to myself, well, I want to do the things that I've always wanted to do now. What else is there to do? Um, when kind of your daily routines are being redefined and a lot of what you thought was stable is being stripped away, then you're forced to return to your purpose or find it. And for me, that's what happened is I'd had these music ideas for very many years and never really started to finish anything. But suddenly I was writing for piano and string quartet for the first time, and it just happened. I had all that time, and uh, the album was born in that period.
So, talk to me a little bit about what you're hoping the listener gets from this new album. What do you hope they get from it?
Well, for me as listener number one, I like to think of myself as, I don't think anybody becomes a composer without wanting to write the music that they themselves want to experience and to hear. And for me, it's music that takes you somewhere, and encourages deep listening. Um, I think maybe my favorite quote from a review ever was when someone said, "This is music that transforms the space that it's played in," um, and that's what I hope to convey with it and that people get from it.
So, take me back to the beginning of your life. Where were you born or raised? How did music, and more specifically jazz, become a part of your world now?
Yeah, so I was born in Ithaca, New York. My dad was a student at the time, and we moved around a little bit, but we ended up back in Ithaca when I was 7. And it was a really totally fertile musical seed in my teens. But I got started playing piano when I was about, I don't know, probably 3 years old. And I always say I started playing when I could reach the keys. Um, and teaching little fingers to play and all that. Um, and then it was probably in high school when I first was exposed to jazz. There was, you know, first there was, pop music when I was in junior high school, and then when I got into high school, there was progressive rock and jazz fusion like Jean-Luc Ponty. Uh, and then I was in the high school jazz band, and my senior year of high school, um, that was really formative, being exposed to uh, really traditional jazz for the first time when I was 16, 17. And what the other thing about that year that's really uh, turns out to have been pivotal was that was, um, in that high school jazz band, uh, there were several other musicians who all appear on this record on the title track. Um, the bass player, Tim Reppert, saxophone player, Michael Rosen, drums, Mike Waldrop. They were all in that high school jazz band with me. And Helene Pohl, who's the first violinist of the New Zealand String Quartet, she played baritone sax in that high school jazz band. So it was really cool that we all got to, we weren't all in one place to play at the same time, but we we got to reunite in a way to play on this track.
So, what was the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away, that made you think, I want to do that one day?
Oh, that's a great question. Maybe. Probably the ones that stick in my mind from those those days would be Pat Metheny and Chick Corea. Were probably two of the earlier jazz shows I saw. But now I'm remembering more like John McLaughlin and the One Truth Band. This would have been 1979. Uh, but yeah, I got to see Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays play As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls
Wow.
live, and that was pretty spectacular. Um,
Right when the pandemic started, I'm in the Kansas City metro. I moved to his hometown of Lee Summit right before it began.
yeah,
So
wow,
it's amazing because during that time I did way more interviews than I ever did before.
mhm.
And the amount of Pat Metheny stories that would come out when people found out I was from Lee Summit was amazing. And it's still, I think about the exports from Kansas City. Obviously, we're a cradle. You think of Charlie Parker, but Pat Metheny is absolutely right up there, neck and neck, of
Yeah,
being one of the most influential jazz musicians of all time.
yeah, I agree with you.
You know?
And Lyle Mays brought out this whole other element in
Yeah,
Pat as well,
yeah,
and I was profoundly influenced by the two of them.
absolutely. Yeah. That's an amazing album, Wichita Falls. That would have been great to see that
Yeah.
come to life live. I haven't seen him live. He doesn't come through Kansas City that often. He did actually a few years ago, and I didn't get a chance to make it, but I would love to catch him live and see it actually transpire. So let me ask you this. What do you like the best about being a composer, about being a musician? What is it that gets you up every day? What is it that has allowed you to evolve and enjoy doing what you're doing for all these years?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, you know, there's this sense of creating something from nothing, and um, and you don't even know where it comes from. And there's some mystery about that. Like, in my day job, I'm a computer programmer, and I like it for some of the same reasons. In that, you're creating something from nothing, and you've got this ability to operate at a wide range of abstractions. You can get really hyper zoomed in on a detail, or you can zoom out and look at this giant picture. And both programming and music are the same that way. But with programming, you always feel like you're solving a problem, and with music, you feel like you're just trying to express something that you can't even put a name to. Uh, my brother said something about one of the pieces on my record. He says, "I wish there were vocals so with words so that I could understand what this emotion was that I'm feeling." And I really liked that because there's if you can't put words to it and yet it's moving you, um, that's really interesting to me.
I'm an IT technician by day for a school district, and I understand that technology standpoint of it, but there's something too with the music that kind of intermingles that makes sense. It's almost as though for me, because I always thought I might try an instrument. I could play the drums a little bit, but like I love being kind of a passenger in the car,
Mhm.
because there's a level of me. I used to have friends that were in bands and they would always get off the stage and be like, well, that wasn't right. That was, this sound, that sound. They needled in on these specifics, but I don't think like that. I just get to fly over the Grand Canyon and just be like, wow, that's really cool, you
Yeah.
know? So, um, yeah, it's that visceral feeling. So let me ask you this. Why do you love jazz? Why do you love this art form that we call jazz?
Well, I'm thinking about this paper I wrote in high school about what jazz was. And it has to do with the sense of freedom that comes from improvisation. Um, and it's interesting for me because I see jazz as being part of a continuum where you have jazz over here and you have classical music over there. And if you try to describe what's in between this continuum and how the poles are defined, right? It has to do with improvisation versus really carefully designed, premeditated structures. But then, improvisation is instant composition, and you can listen to improvisations that have as much. complexity and structure as any classical music as well. So, but I really like the tension between improvising and premeditating.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're two ingredients to be mixed.
So if you could get into a time machine and go see a dream jazz show, one show, where are you going?
Wow. You know, I would love to see Keith Jarrett play some more. I'm really sad that, he's no longer able to do what he once did.
Yeah.
Uh, I did get to see him a few times, but there was always something really transcendent about those shows.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Miles Davis. Yeah, I got to see him once, maybe in the mid to late 80s. Uh, I think Ron Foster. Anyway, I would love to go back and hear older, like Bitches Brew and In a Silent Way, that
Yeah.
era, Miles Davis live.
I'd love to join you on that trip. My son's name is Miles for obvious reasons, so I get it. I'm a big fan. So let me ask you this. Everyone, Doug, has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone that gets your music, everybody that works with you, but you run the show. What's
Mhm.
your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a fantastic question.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, who the heck do you think you
Who do
are?
you think you are?
Well, I guess I'm an explorer. Um, I I don't like routine. Um, so I like to feel like every day is different in some way, which is why the pandemic was so hard in some ways. Uh, but yeah, I'm trying to express something that's out there, and that something is musical, and that's kind of what motivates me. I want to find and express that thing.
So Days of Gypsy Nights is the new album. If anybody wants to pick up a copy, maybe catch you live, any of the good business, where do they go?
So you can go to my Bandcamp site, which is dougwyatt.bandcamp.com, or you can visit my website, which is www.dougwyatt-music.com. Um, and yeah, you can find the album there, and it's also on all the major streaming services.
Cool. I will put links up. Doug, this has been great. Thank you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with the album.
Thank you, Joe. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for all the great questions. And
Hey jazz fans, Joe Domino here, the host of the weekly Neon Jazz radio show and regular interview series being produced and distributed from Lee Summit, Missouri. We are very excited to let you know about the second annual Lee Summit Jazz Festival taking place again this summer on June 28th at the Bridge Space, located at 210 Southwest Market Street in downtown Lee Summit. Following the success of the 2024 festival, the lineup will include Lee Summit students, Casey Area Youth Jazz, Paganova with Michael Pagan, Horoscope with Stan Kessler, Brad Gregory, Adam Larson, and the Lee Summit Jazz Orchestra. There will also be food trucks and vendors to round out a day of celebration. Early bird tickets are 2 for $30, and all details can be found at lsjazzfest.com. We can't wait to see you there.